Yes. You are living under invisible rules that were written before you ever spoke your first word. Every day, you feel the pull of others shaping your decisions, asking you to fit into boxes you never chose. You have been told that being agreeable is good, that belonging is everything, and that your worth is measured by how well you meet the world's expectations. But I want you to ask yourself right now, whose life are you really living? This is not just a question, it's a challenge. Living for yourself is not about turning your back on the world. It's about refusing to shrink so others feel comfortable. It's about reclaiming your time, your values, and your dreams from the grip of approval seeking. The reason is simple. If you spend your life being who others want, you will wake up one day as a stranger to yourself, haunted by regrets and missed chances. How do you change? You start today by listening to your own voice before all others. You set boundaries, you speak your truth, and you choose your path, even if it means standing alone. Your life belongs to you. Take it back. You were not born for applause. Every day, unseen hands reach for you. Some belong to people you love. Some belong to people you barely know. Others belong to society itself, its rules, its silent judgments, its endless expectations. These hands shape you long before you realize it. They influence your words before you speak. They guide your steps before you understand where you are going. Without noticing, you wake beneath invisible weights that were never yours to carry. Most people call this belonging, but it is not belonging, it is quiet suffocation. When you live for applause, you stop listening to your own voice. The moment you let others decide your direction, you begin to vanish by degrees. You don't disappear all at once, you fade slowly. Every time you silence yourself to please someone else, a piece of your spirit falls away each time you say yes when your heart says no. And those pieces do not return easily. Why do you bend so easily? Because blending in feels safer than standing alone. Because being accepted feels easier than risking judgment. Because the crowd gives you comfort, even when it steals your identity. But safety is not the same as freedom, and acceptance is not the same as purpose. When you allow others to define your direction, you trade your destiny for their approval. You trade your truth for their comfort. You trade your soul for a handful of dust. You must refuse this silent suffocation. Living for yourself is not selfish, it is survival of the spirit. It is the decision to stop begging the world for permission to be who you are. It is the moment you realize that you cannot reach your potential while bowing to the expectations of people who fear their own strength. How do you begin? You start with a vow. I will no longer hand the map of my life to anyone else. Stop moving according to the currents of other people's desires. Stop shaping your days to meet their moods. Stand still long enough to hear the quiet whisper of your true aim, the one that has always been inside you. That whisper is your anchor. It is the one voice in your life that does not ask you to shrink. The world will not support this decision. It will shout for you to fall back in line. It will tempt you with easy approval and loud distractions. It will call you difficult, unpredictable, selfish. But these accusations are not warnings. They are signs that you are finally breaking free from the mold that kept you small. Decline the invitation to return to who they want you to be. Own your choices. Speak your truth without trembling. Move through the world with the quiet authority of someone who does not need validation to remain standing. The one who lives for others becomes a shadow. The one who lives for themselves becomes a force. When you stop shaping your life around the opinions of others, you discover something rare, a power that cannot be challenged and a peace that cannot be stolen. Your life begins the moment you stop performing and start becoming. The fear of disapproval is the real prison. You live surrounded by silent judges, family, friends, strangers, the collective eyes of the world. Each day, You are measured and weighed against standards you never chose. There are rules, spoken and unspoken, warnings disguised as advice, expectations that creep in without permission and take root before you realize it. As you move through life, their opinions brush against you like invisible hands, shaping your thoughts before they become words and steering your choices before you understand your own desires. What most people never admit is that the prison is not made by these judges themselves. The bars are built from your fear of losing their approval. It is not their criticism that cuts deepest. It is the anticipation of their disapproval, the anxiety that grows when you imagine their disappointment. This fear is the true warden. It locks you into routines that do not suit you. It holds your voice hostage. It convinces you that stepping outside the lines is a threat, that silence is safer than truth, that pleasing others is the only way to belong. As you continue to trade your authenticity for acceptance, the days begin to blur together. Each one becomes another performance, another effort to maintain the peace, another act of shrinking to fit the mold they set for you. But what do you really gain from this? The world's applause is loud for a moment, but it fades quickly, leaving you empty and searching for the next chance to prove your worth. Each time you seek permission to live your own way, you lose another day that was meant for you alone. Time slips by, unclaimed. So why do you continue to seek approval that is always out of reach? Because the pain of being misunderstood feels unbearable. Because you fear rejection will leave you alone. Because it is easier to say yes to what others want than to stand by your own needs and risk their anger, their confusion, their withdrawal. The truth is, the price of that fear is far greater than the pain of rejection itself. When you betray yourself, you are left with a hollowness that no praise can ever fill. Breaking free from this prison does not come easily. It requires courage you did not know you possessed. You must risk being misunderstood, risk being disliked, even risk being alone. But there is a peace that waits for you on the other side, a quiet certainty that belongs only to those who have learned to live without begging for approval. To begin, practice saying no when your spirit recoils. Watch how discomfort rises, tightens your chest, makes you question your decision. But hold firm. Notice how the discomfort fades, how the world continues to turn. Each refusal is a brick removed from the walls around you. With time, you learn that the sting of rejection is brief, while the freedom that follows is lasting. You were never meant to live inside a cage of your own making. Refuse to let fear become your master. Step into the discomfort of honesty, and you will find a peace the world cannot give or take away, a calm mind unburdened by the need to be understood by all. That is where true freedom begins. You are not a mirror for other people's reflections. You are not a mirror for other people's reflections, yet most spend their lives shining back what others expect, never daring to reveal their own true face. From childhood, you learn to read the room, to adjust your smile, to hide your doubts and reshape your dreams to fit the world around you. Day after day, you become what you echo, absorbing voices, copying mannerisms, blending your ambitions with the crowd until you can no longer tell where you end and they begin. There is a deep emptiness that grows in a life lived only by reaction. You chase the approval of one person, then another, endlessly shifting to keep the peace, to avoid discomfort, to remain welcome at every table. But with every compromise, a part of you slips further from view. It is a slow erasure, barely noticed at first, until the moment comes when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize who is looking back. Why does this emptiness feel so heavy? Because imitation is easy, but authenticity is rare. The world rewards you for conformity, for doing what is expected, for reflecting the values and beliefs of those in power. And so you wear mask after mask, hoping that at least one will be accepted. But even when you succeed, the satisfaction is shallow, a brittle surface that cracks under the weight of your unspoken desires. No amount of applause or approval can replace the quiet confidence that comes from living as your real self. Reclaiming your outline in the world is not simple, but it is essential. It begins with a withdrawal of your energy from their judgments. You must turn inward, away from the noise and opinions that once dictated every move. Ask yourself in the privacy of your own mind, is this my belief or a borrowed opinion? Is this my dream or just a story handed down by someone else? Write your answers where only you can see them, in the dark, before the world wakes. These secret admissions will form the beginning of your return to yourself. It will not be easy at first. You may feel invisible, isolated, uncertain of how to move or speak without a script, but do not rush to fill the silence. Let yourself sit in the discomfort of not knowing, of being unapproved, of holding an opinion that no one else shares. In that silence, your true shape will begin to reappear, not as a reflection, but as a presence. The longer you refuse to be a mirror, the more clearly you will see your own outline. And with each act of honesty, the world itself will begin to rearrange, slowly shifting to fit the person you are becoming. Not everyone will understand you. Some may turn away, unsettled by the change. But those who remain will see something rare, a life that is not borrowed but built. In time, the emptiness will fade. In its place will grow a deep satisfaction, the kind that only comes from living as your own original, imperfect, perhaps, but undeniably real. Solitude, the price and proof of authenticity. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the place where masks fall away, where the world's noise finally grows silent, and only your true desires remain. Most people spend their lives surrounded by distraction and company, sometimes because they love it, but more often because they are afraid of being left alone with their own thoughts. The world tells you that standing apart is dangerous, that being alone is proof you are somehow lacking. But solitude is not a curse. It is the crucible where the authentic self is forged. What are you when the applause fades, when no one is watching, when there is no one left to impress? This question unsettles those who have always depended on outside validation. Without an audience, who are you performing for? Without expectations, what do you actually want? In solitude, these questions rise up and demand answers. They cannot be ignored or softened by the comfort of the crowd. This is why so few endure true solitude. When all the distractions fall away, you are left with the raw, unvarnished truth of yourself. The ambitions you have suppressed, the fears you have masked, the regrets you have buried, they all rise to the surface in the silence. For many, the urge to escape becomes overwhelming. Solitude is the testing ground of authenticity. It is the mirror that does not lie, the room where no one is left to impress. It is here, in the quiet, that you must answer. What remains when nobody is watching? What do you stand for when you are the only witness to your actions? This is the foundation upon which real strength is built, not the shifting sands of public approval. How do you make solitude your sanctuary rather than your torment? Begin with small moments. Walk alone under a gray sky. Sit in a room and let the discomfort wash over you without moving to erase it. At first, solitude may accuse you, filling your mind with every insecurity and past regret. Stay anyway. Allow the discomfort to do its work. You will discover, in time, that your deepest wisdom is not found in the chatter of others, but in your own silent voice. Solitude is not just where you discover yourself, it is where you reclaim yourself. Each time you choose your own company over the comfort of the crowd, you draw closer to the person you were meant to be. Your desires become clearer. Your boundaries become firmer. You no longer bend to every wind or drift on every current of opinion. In solitude, you become the author of your own days, the one who decides what is worth pursuing and what must be left behind. Embrace solitude. It is not a punishment, but a privilege, a hard-won freedom, and a sign that you have chosen to be real, even when it costs you the comfort of the crowd. In the quiet, you do not shrink, you take root. And from that root, a new strength rises, one that no one else can give and no one can take away. The cost of pleasing everyone is becoming no one. You try to be agreeable, to smooth the edges of your personality, to meet every expectation with a practiced smile. There is comfort in being liked, in being welcomed wherever you go. You learn, often early, that saying yes keeps the peace, that swallowing your opinion spares you the sting of conflict. With every accommodation, you earn small tokens of approval, an easy laugh, a nod of acceptance, a feeling of safety within the herd. But these rewards come at a price most never see until it's too late. Each time you betray your own needs for someone else's comfort, a piece of you disappears. It is a slow process, hardly noticeable at first. You silence your preferences, you ignore your instincts, you adjust your dreams to match those around you. Over time, your reflection grows fainter, your voice grows softer, until you wonder if you ever had a voice at all. What is the reward for being agreeable at the expense of your own truth? You become a shadow, a presence that fills space but lacks substance. Approval becomes a hunger that can never be satisfied, a cycle that demands ever more compromise. Respect, real respect, cannot take root where you never stand your ground. Belonging turns brittle because it is based on the version of you that others find easiest to accept, not the person you truly are. Why do so many chase this emptiness? Because standing alone, even for a moment, feels like exile. The world teaches you to fear the cold of disapproval more than the pain of self-abandonment. It's easier to blend in than to risk the silence that follows honest disagreement. But blending in brings no real peace, only the hollow ache of a life unlived. How do you break free from the cycle of pleasing everyone but yourself? The first step is to accept a hard truth. Not everyone will like you when you are whole. Some will walk away, confused or even angry that you refuse to keep playing your part in their story. Let them go. It is not cruelty, it is necessity. Each act of honesty, each time you say no to what diminishes you, becomes a declaration that your life belongs to you. Begin in small ways. Speak your mind, even if your voice shakes. Honor your own needs, even if it disappoints those who have grown accustomed to your silence. Do what you believe is right, especially when it would be easier to keep the peace. At first, rejection will sting. Old patterns of guilt and fear will rise. But as you withstand them, something new will grow in their place. Self-respect. You will notice that the world does not end when you choose yourself. Those who truly matter will begin to respect your boundaries. And, more importantly, you will begin to respect yourself. With each act of self-loyalty, your reflection sharpens, your voice strengthens, and your sense of belonging shifts from the fickle crowd to the unwavering foundation within you. Self-respect, once earned, never needs to beg for applause. When you finally refuse to be everyone to everyone, you become someone real, unshakable, and whole. The danger of letting others chart your course. Every time you hand over your decisions to another parent, partner, boss, or friend, you surrender the compass that should guide your journey. Often, it happens in small, ordinary ways. Letting someone else choose your path in school, your work, your beliefs, even your ambitions. The world is filled with eager navigators who will happily point you where they think you should go, eager to overlay your life with the blueprint of their own hopes and fears. Each time you let another set your direction, your unique landscape grows a little dimmer, your sense of purpose a little weaker. What remains of you when your choices are all borrowed? You may move efficiently along the lines others have drawn, ticking off milestones, earning approval for following a route that never belonged to you. The path may seem safe, mapped, and measured, and the comfort of the crowd makes it hard to see how much you are losing. But inside, something vital withers a sense of possibility, a fire for exploration, the simple joy of choosing your own adventure. You wake one day and realize you have reached a destination, but it is not one that fills you with pride or peace. The view from the summit is empty when the mountain was never your own. Why do so many let others chart their course? Because the unknown is frightening, and wandering alone demands courage most never cultivate. There is safety in numbers, reassurance in taking the road most traveled. But every meaningful life is drawn by an original hand. Every destiny worth living is shaped by decisions made in defiance of the crowd. The urge to please, to avoid the risk of disapproval or disappointment, becomes a silent thief. It robs you of years, opportunities, and worst of all, the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you lived on your own terms. To reclaim your course, you must start with small acts of rebellion, quiet, determined moments where you choose what excites your spirit, regardless of who understands. Ignore the urge to explain your motives or justify your ambitions to those who cannot see your vision. Listen to the voice within, the one that is faint but persistent, whispering of possibilities that belong to you and you alone. Resist the pressure to conform to maps made by other people's regrets or fears. When doubt arises, and it will remind yourself that you alone will live with the consequences of your life. The opinions of others are fleeting, but the reality of your days and nights is forever yours to bear. To live by borrowed direction is to abandon the one thing that cannot be replaced, your time on earth, your one and only life. No one else can answer for its worth. No one else will pay the price for your regret. The journey is yours. Claim it, and let your footsteps draw a path that could only have been made by you. To serve others, you must not lose yourself. Service is a virtue, but only when it springs from strength, not from self-erasure. The world praises those who give until they are empty, parents who sacrifice every dream for their children, employees who shoulder every burden for the sake of the team, friends who say yes until their own needs are forgotten. You are told that real goodness means putting others first at any cost. So you give, you adapt, you say, "It's nothing," even as exhaustion settles deep in your bones. Yet, what happens when your needs are always set aside? At first, you may feel noble, even admired, but soon a quiet resentment begins to grow. You wonder if anyone notices your sacrifices, if anyone would lift a finger for you in return. You start to feel invisible in the very life you help to build. Generosity curdles into bitterness. Kindness becomes a duty you secretly dread. Your spirit weakens each time you pour from an empty cup. Why do so many fall into this trap? Because pleasing others is easier than risking their disappointment. Because saying yes avoids conflict, while standing up for your own limits feels selfish or ungrateful. You mistake self-abandonment for virtue, believing that to be loved, you must be needed, and to be needed, you must be endlessly available. But this is a false bargain. You cannot give what you do not possess. When you serve from emptiness, you offer only fragments, never fullness. How do you serve others without losing yourself? It begins with drawing boundaries. Give with intention, not compulsion. Be honest about what you can offer and what you must keep for your own well-being. Practice saying enough, even if your voice shakes. Protect your energy, your rest, your dreams, not as acts of selfishness, but as necessary acts of stewardship. When you care for yourself, your service regains its purity, freely given, not demanded or extracted. You are strongest when you give from abundance, not depletion. True service uplifts both giver and receiver, never requiring you to become less so that someone else can be more. Only the strong have something real to offer, because only the strong know where they end and others begin. When you finally stop sacrificing yourself for approval, you find the freedom to give without fear, to serve with honor, and to live as both servant and sovereign in your own life. Your emotions are not your master. A storm lives inside you: anger, envy, sorrow, fear. These feelings rise like waves, fierce and sudden, threatening to carry you wherever they please. Most people live at the mercy of these tempests, tossed from mood to mood, prisoners of urges they cannot name. They lash out when anger flares, withdraw when sadness swells, or surrender to fear when the shadows grow long. In the end, their lives are shaped not by reason or purpose, but by whatever feeling shouts the loudest. What does it cost to be ruled by your emotions? You become a passenger in your own life, forever reacting, never choosing. Each time you obey a passing urge, you abandon the helm, and the world becomes a place of endless turmoil and regret. You hurt people you love, make decisions you cannot defend, and wake each morning to consequences that do not match your deepest intentions. Why is it so easy to be governed by feeling? Because emotion is loud, raw, immediate, impossible to ignore. It floods the mind, clouds judgment, and convinces you that what you feel in this moment is the only truth that matters. Logic, on the other hand, whispers. It asks you to wait, to pause, to see beyond the rush of the moment. Mastery begins the moment you refuse to act on every urge, the moment you decide that your mind, not your mood, will guide your actions. How do you reclaim authority over your inner world? Learn to observe your emotions without obeying them. When anger flares, notice it, but do not let it choose your words. When sorrow rises, allow it, but do not let it write your fate. When fear threatens, listen to its warning, but do not surrender your future to its grip. Each time you pause, each time you choose response over reaction, you grow stronger. You become the captain, not the captive, of your own soul. With practice, the storm still comes, but you no longer drown. Calm becomes your nature. Decisions become deliberate, and the world, with all its chaos and noise, loses its power to shake you from your course. Loneliness, the shadow that strengthens resolve. All who choose to live for themselves must cross the valley of loneliness. When you stop performing for others, when you step away from the applause and let go of borrowed beliefs, a silence falls. The crowd thins. You discover that many who called themselves friends only stayed so long as you played your part in their story. Now, with your mask set aside, their interest fades, and you are left standing in the hush that follows. At first, this loneliness feels unbearable, a hollow ache, as if something essential has been stripped away. You may question your choices, longing for the warmth of inclusion, tempted to retreat, to shrink, to become agreeable once more. But this emptiness is not a punishment, it is a passage. The solitude you feel is the world making room for your transformation. Why does loneliness hurt so deeply? Because the company of others, even when it suffocates, gives a sense of safety. The herd soothes, even as it stifles your voice. But the one who dares to step away finds, in the beginning, only echoes and doubts. Here is the test. Will you abandon your truth just to regain their company, or will you stand firm, allowing the silence to teach you its lesson? How do you withstand the weight of this shadow? First, remind yourself that solitude is not a verdict, but a forge. Use this time to build, to read, to think, to walk in the world as your own companion. Let your purpose fill the space others once occupied. Each day you endure the quiet, You grow less dependent on the approval and presence of others, and more dependent on principle, on conviction, on the steady flame inside. Over time, loneliness transforms. It becomes less a void and more a strength. The world may not rush to fill the emptiness, but a rare calm emerges, a self-respect, a quiet assurance. You learn to walk without needing a chorus to cheer your every step. And in this silence, you finally discover the only company you ever truly needed, your own unwavering self. Comparison is the thief of all satisfaction. You have been taught since childhood to measure your life against the lives of others. It begins subtly: grades in school, trophies on the shelf, praise given more to one than another. Soon, it grows into a reflex. You see someone's victories and feel the sting of your own struggles. You glimpse their happiness and wonder why yours feels incomplete. You scroll through glimpses of other lives, comparing their brightest moments to your ordinary days. This is the way envy takes root quietly, persistently, until it flowers into bitterness and hunger. What grows in the soil of comparison? Restlessness, dissatisfaction, a hunger that cannot be satisfied. You see what someone else possesses: a relationship, a reputation, a string of accomplishments, and believe that you are lacking until you have the same. Each time you measure yourself by their fortune, you diminish your own. Your unique story, with its trials and hard-earned wisdom, becomes a source of shame rather than pride. You begin to live as if there is a scoreboard hidden in the sky, keeping tally of your worth. Why is it so easy to fall into the trap of comparison? Because it is everywhere, woven into every system, every conversation, every reward. The world tells you that value is measured by ranking, that you are only as good as the distance between yourself and the person ahead of you. It is easier to chase someone else's reflection than to polish your own soul. But this chase is endless. There is always someone richer, happier, more successful, more admired. The finish line keeps moving, always just out of reach. You run faster and faster, yet satisfaction slips further away. But there is a truth the world seldom shares. Every person you envy also carries burdens, doubts, and quiet fears. Their victories have costs. Their joy is sometimes only a mask. You compare your reality to their highlight reel, your private pain to their public performance. In doing so, you rob yourself of peace. The energy you pour into comparison is energy drained from your own journey. You become distracted, restless, impatient with your own growth, blind to the quiet victories that could have brought you real fulfillment. How do you escape this endless cycle? You must turn your gaze inward. Set standards for yourself that are not borrowed from the world. Each day, ask not, "Am I ahead?" but "Am I true to what matters?" Replace the urge to compete with the urge to improve. Celebrate private victories, however small. The moment you overcame anger, the effort you made when no one noticed, the patience you grew through difficulty. Forgive private failures as well. There is no trophy for self-mastery, but there is a deep, lasting contentment that comparison can never touch. You must learn to walk your own path, sometimes behind, sometimes ahead, but always your own. Refuse to judge your journey by someone else's map. The world's praise and envy are both distractions. There is no finish line in the race of comparison, only exhaustion. Real fulfillment is not found in being first, but in being whole within yourself. Choose contentment over competition, growth over jealousy. When you do, your envy will wither, starved by the light of your own acceptance. And in that light, you will finally be free to find satisfaction not in what others possess, but in the life that belongs only to you. Strength is forged in silence, not in praise. Strength is not built in the spotlight. The world loves the story of sudden glory, the champion's ovation, the applause of the crowd. But the truth is far less glamorous. Real strength grows in the quiet places where no one sees you striving, where there is no audience to cheer your effort, and where victory brings only the silent nod of your own spirit. In these hidden hours, late at night, early in the morning, moments when doubt is your only companion, you learn what you are truly made of. What is the value of strength that depends on witnesses? It collapses the moment the crowd turns away. Those who need validation to persist will falter as soon as attention shifts. They chase the next compliment, the next round of applause, but their resilience is shallow. The pursuit of praise is a never-ending road, and each success feels emptier than the last. You can fool others with noise and bravado, but in the end, the real test comes in silence, when you must summon resolve with no promise of recognition. Why, then, do most crave validation? Because approval feels like proof that your efforts matter. The applause of others offers a sweet comfort. If they see my struggle, if they admire my sacrifice, then I am not alone in it. But this comfort is fleeting. When the clapping stops, when the lights fade, you are left with only yourself. The question that remains is brutal in its honesty. Are you proud of the work you did when nobody was watching? Did you persist when no one was there to witness or reward you? True strength is indifferent to recognition. It is forged in private battles, those small moments when you keep a promise to yourself, when you rise after falling, when you discipline your mind in the face of temptation. These victories are invisible to the world, but they accumulate within you, forming an unshakable core. The person who trains their character in solitude does not need an audience to stand tall. The one who sweats in silence can bleed in public and remain unbroken. How do you cultivate this strength? Seek progress when no one else is keeping score. Set goals not for display, but for the quiet satisfaction of surpassing your former self. Value discipline in the dark, wake early, keep your word, train your body and mind, and do it whether or not anyone knows. Count silent sacrifices, not likes or followers. Let your growth be its own reward. Over time, the discipline you build in private will become visible when it matters most. In crisis, in conflict, when the pressure mounts, you will not crumble because you have already been tested in silence. The applause of others will come and go, but the foundation within you will remain. This is the strength that endures, the kind that is built alone, proven in hardship, and known only to you until the world is forced to see it. Seek the silence. Embrace the loneliness of the long, invisible struggle. There, your real power is born. Mistakes are teachers, not enemies. No one escapes mistakes. You stumble, you miss the mark, you fall short of what you imagined for yourself. Sometimes it is a small slip, a careless word, a forgotten promise, a moment of weakness. Sometimes it is a collapse, trust broken, an opportunity lost, a failure that echoes through the years. The world has taught you to fear mistakes, to treat them as stains that must be hidden, denied, or endlessly explained. You are made to believe that error is shameful, that to falter is to forfeit respect. But what is the true cost of running from your mistakes? You remain unchanged, circling the same ground, untested and untouched by growth. When you hide from error, you avoid the only path that leads to mastery. The wisest souls are not those who never falter, but those who learn to greet their mistakes as teachers, not as enemies. In every failure there is a lesson, a new clarity, a chance to start again with better vision and deeper resolve. Why do most people find it so hard to face their mistakes? Because the world rewards appearances, not honesty. Admitting fault feels like stripping away your armor, leaving you exposed to judgment and ridicule. Pride whispers that you must always appear competent, that others' respect depends on your perfection. But perfection is a lie, and those who chase it become brittle and afraid. Real confidence comes from the humility to admit when you are wrong and the courage to seek out the truth hidden inside every setback. Mistakes are not the end of the story, they are the rough drafts of growth. Each time you stumble, you are offered a choice. Ignore the lesson and repeat the error, or pause and learn what you did not see before. Growth is built on a foundation of honest self-examination. When you can face your own flaws without flinching, you strip them of their power to haunt you. You begin to understand yourself not as a finished product, but as a work in progress, capable of change and worthy of patience. How do you transform your mistakes into mastery? Begin by meeting your failures with honesty. Resist the urge to make excuses or hide your shortcomings. Analyze what went wrong quietly, without anger or self-pity. Ask, what can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? Take responsibility for your part and forgive yourself for being human. The world may judge, but your own mind will grow stronger for it. Over time, you will notice a shift. Mistakes no longer trigger shame, but curiosity. Failure becomes not a wound, but a signpost pointing you toward greater wisdom, deeper strength, and a self-respect that cannot be shaken. Mistakes are not there to destroy you. They are there to refine you, to test your resolve, to reveal the gaps in your armor and the places where you must still grow. Every great achievement is built on 1,000 small corrections, each one a mark of progress, not disgrace. The person who learns from mistakes becomes unbreakable, for nothing can touch those who refuse to stop growing. In the end, mistakes are not your enemies. They are the very teachers that life sends to shape your destiny. Anger is a fire that consumes its owner first. Anger arrives uninvited, a sudden flame that roars through the mind and sets the spirit alight. It promises you strength, an edge in conflict, a shield against disrespect, a weapon against the world's cruelty. It whispers that you must defend your pride, that you cannot let offenses pass, that to show mercy is to appear weak. Yet for all its heat, anger rarely brings the power it promises. Instead, it leaves you scorched, smoldering with regret long after the moment has passed. Each time you surrender to anger, you lose a little of your command over yourself. Words spill out that cannot be recalled, and actions taken in rage become wounds that last far longer than the quarrel itself. Anger makes you a stranger to your own principles. It blinds you to reason, narrowing your focus to a single hurt, a single slight, as if nothing else in the world matters but your need to strike back. What is truly gained by giving in to rage? The victory is fleeting. You may win an argument, but you lose your composure. You may silence an opponent, but at the cost of your own peace. Anger is easy. It demands no discipline, only reaction. Yet the price is high. Relationships strained, opportunities missed, dignity sacrificed on the altar of a passing storm. Why is anger so seductive, so easy to justify? Because it feels like control in moments when you feel powerless. When you are hurt or disrespected, anger surges to protect your wounded pride. It offers the illusion of strength, the ability to lash out, to make others feel what you feel inside. But this is a false power, borrowed from chaos, and it quickly slips from your grasp. Real strength is not the ability to erupt, but the discipline to remain steady when provoked. How do you master the fire within? The first step is to pause. When anger rises, refuse to act at once. Breathe. Let the flame burn without feeding it more fuel. Question the story that anger tells. Is this truly an attack or a misunderstanding? Is this worth sacrificing your inner calm? Do you wish to be right or to be wise? Every moment you delay reaction is a moment of power. Reclaim the space where wisdom can enter and guide your words and choices. Let your composure become your shield. Do not meet fire with fire, but with clarity. Speak when you have control, not when you are controlled by emotion. Remember, those who master their anger become immovable. They cannot be manipulated, cannot be baited, cannot be drawn from their purpose. In every storm, it is the calmest mind that steers the ship to safety. The world will offer countless reasons to be angry. But you must decide if you will be ruled by every offense or if you will rule yourself. Anger is a fire that consumes its owner first. Choose the discipline of calm, and you will find a power that endures long after the flames have died. In the end, those who keep their peace possess the only strength that truly matters. Your value is not negotiable. You enter this world whole, born with a quiet certainty of your own worth, untouched by judgment, unburdened by the need to prove yourself. But as you grow, the world begins to bargain you down. Each criticism, every rejection, every lost opportunity whispers that your value depends on the approval of others. You are measured against shifting standards: grades, titles, beauty, salary, popularity. These become the scales on which you weigh your right to take up space, to speak, to dream. Soon, you are tempted to shrink. When your ideas are dismissed, you learn to silence yourself. When your efforts are overlooked, you begin to work harder, chasing praise as if it were the oxygen you need to breathe. The more you strive to fit someone else's mold, the more invisible you become. You compromise your boundaries, adjust your beliefs, and bury your desires to avoid the sting of exclusion. It happens gradually, a soft surrender to the hope that one day you will do enough or become enough to be truly accepted. What is the cost of letting others decide your value? It is a life lived in the waiting room of your own potential, always seeking permission to be yourself. You allow people to treat you as disposable, hoping that by being agreeable, by being useful, by being less, you might finally be chosen, respected, loved. But respect built on self-erasure is only an illusion. The moment you stop performing, it vanishes, and you are left with nothing but regret. Why do we believe we must earn our value? Because society has convinced us that worth is a prize to be won, a goal to be chased, a badge handed out to those who meet invisible expectations. This is the world's greatest lie. Value is not something you can win or lose. It is not given by another, and it cannot be taken away, not by insult, not by rejection, not by failure. How do you reclaim your inherent worth? Begin by refusing to justify your existence. Do not beg for acceptance or apologize for your dreams. Hold to your standards, even when you stand alone. Speak your truth quietly, without trembling. Set boundaries and keep them even when it means disappointing others or risking their anger. The more you practice self-respect, the stronger it grows. Each time you honor your limits, your dignity deepens. Each time you choose yourself, your presence sharpens. There will be those who call you arrogant, difficult, unyielding. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. Your value does not rise or fall with the applause or criticism of the crowd. The more you anchor your worth in your own self-knowledge, the less the world can bargain you down. Soon, you will notice that the only people who truly belong in your life are those who recognize your value without negotiation. You are not a product to be discounted, not a prize to be earned. You are an original, and your worth is a fact, not a reward. Once you accept this, you become impossible to diminish, untouchable in spirit, unbreakable in resolve. You stop living as if you must prove yourself and start living as if your very being is already enough. That is the foundation of all freedom. Calm is a weapon few will understand. The world is in a constant rush, a blur of alarms, opinions, arguments, and the endless pressure to respond. You are told to move quickly, to act now, to be everywhere at once. Every crisis calls for your attention. Every notification interrupts your thoughts. It is easy to be swept up, to believe that agitation means importance, that anxiety proves you are engaged and alive. Most people spend their days pulled by invisible strings. Always one bad headline, one rude word, one mistake away from being thrown off balance. But in this chaos, a rare power is found, the power of calm. Calm is not laziness. It is not the absence of feeling, nor is it denial of the storm raging outside. Calm is a weapon, the mark of one who has trained the mind to resist panic, to delay reaction, to stand steady while the world trembles. It is a discipline that requires courage and patience, because nothing draws more suspicion in a frantic world than the person who refuses to be rattled. What is gained by reacting to every provocation, every rumor, every perceived slight? You lose focus, you waste energy, and you become predictable, easily provoked, easily manipulated. When your emotions are always at the mercy of events, your life becomes a string of reactions, each one pulling you further from your true purpose. You may feel important, involved, busy, but you are not in control. You are a leaf in the wind, at the mercy of every passing gust. Why is calm so rare and so misunderstood? Because it takes discipline to pause before speaking, to breathe before acting, to wait out the first wave of emotion before making a decision. The world prizes instant response, quick outrage, fast opinions. People who remain calm are sometimes mistaken for being cold, indifferent, or detached. But true calm is the highest form of care for yourself and for the outcomes you shape. It is the mark of someone who values clarity over chaos, wisdom over noise. How do you develop this weapon within yourself? Begin with your breath. When pressure mounts, let your breath slow. Notice your heartbeat. Refuse to speak until your mind is clear. Step back and watch your emotions rise and fall without being swept away. Practice holding silence in the face of provocation, and you will find that most battles never needed to be fought at all. The more you practice calm, the more others will notice your steadiness. In rooms full of tension, you will be the one whose presence soothes, whose words carry weight, whose decisions are trusted. People will seek your advice, drawn not to your volume, but to your unshakable foundation. In time, calm becomes your reputation, your secret armor. While others chase every crisis, you see the bigger pattern, choosing action only when it truly matters. In a world addicted to reaction, calm is both shield and sword. Master it, and you become untouchable not because you never feel, but because you always choose. Calm is the mark of a mind that belongs to itself. Let others be thrown by every wind. You will stand where others fall. Your composure, a quiet declaration of power few will ever understand. You are not obligated to explain your peace. There comes a time when the storms that once tossed you no longer touch your spirit. You move through the world quietly, your mind no longer chained to every drama. Your heart no longer pulled by the noise of others. You reach a peace that seems strange to those still caught in the whirlwind. They question your stillness, challenge your composure, and demand explanations for your calm. Why aren't you worried, they ask. How can you stay so silent when everything is falling apart? What the world rarely admits is that peace itself can unsettle those who have never tasted it. People become suspicious when you do not join their panic. They grow uncomfortable with your refusal to argue, to gossip, to fume over every small injustice. Your calm becomes a mirror reflecting their own restlessness, and for some, that reflection is too much to bear. They try to pull you back into their chaos, to force you to justify your detachment. Why do you feel the need to explain yourself? Because being misunderstood is uncomfortable. Because society rewards those who are always on, always visible, always involved in the drama of the day. To stand apart, to move at your own pace, is seen as an act of rebellion. You may be called distant, arrogant, uncaring, but your peace is not an act of rebellion. It is the result of hard-won discipline, a reward earned through self-mastery and years of refusing to let the outside world dictate your inside weather. How do you protect your peace when others demand that you justify it? The answer is as simple as it is difficult. Let your actions speak for themselves. You owe no explanations for the quiet you have fought to build within yourself. Resist the urge to argue or defend your choices. Speak little, act wisely, and allow others to wrestle with their own discomfort. Understand that your tranquility is not something you must trade for approval or understanding. When questioned, stand firm. Do not be baited by provocations or drawn into old patterns just to reassure others. Remember, your peace is not a gift to be handed out. It is a fortress, a place where you alone set the terms. Each time you hold your ground, each time you refuse to explain your calm, your boundaries strengthen. Over time, people will learn to respect your stillness, even if they never fully understand it. Let them question, let them speculate. In time, your peace will become its own answer. The loudest voices are often the most troubled, the quietest souls the most anchored. Live so that your serenity becomes a lesson for others, a silent reminder that it is possible to live untethered to the storms of the world. Your calm is not weakness. It is a form of power that needs no justification. You do not owe the world your worry. You do not owe anyone your anxiety. You are not obligated to explain your peace. Hold it close, guard it fiercely, and let it light your path forward, no matter how much the world asks for a reason. Let go of what you cannot command. Control is the illusion that keeps you up at night. It whispers that if only you work harder, worry more, argue longer, you can shape every outcome, bend every person to your will, steer every storm away from your door. The world encourages this myth, teaching you to plan every detail, manage every risk, prepare for every possible disaster. You grip life tightly, knuckles white, desperate to keep chaos at bay. But the harder you try to command everything, the more you become tangled in frustration and fear. The world is full of variables beyond your reach. The opinions of others, the choices of loved ones, the swing of fate, the passage of time. You can influence, persuade, hope, but you cannot dictate the outcomes. People will disappoint you, plans will unravel, and even your best efforts sometimes end in silence or loss. The more you cling, the more anxious you become, and the less you enjoy the moments that are actually yours. What is lost in the struggle for control? Your sanity, your serenity, your power to act wisely on what truly matters. The need to command every outcome steals the present from you. It blinds you to simple joys, dulls your gratitude, fills your mind with endless what-ifs. You spend your days rehearsing arguments, replaying old hurts, worrying about shadows that may never come. Meanwhile, the world moves on, indifferent to your schemes and sorrows. Why is letting go so difficult? Because the mind fears vulnerability more than defeat. To surrender the illusion of control feels like weakness, like giving up. It means facing the reality that life will not always obey your wishes, no matter how righteous your cause or careful your plans. But this is not defeat. It is the beginning of freedom. You gain strength not by forcing outcomes, but by learning the difference between what is yours to command and what must be released. How do you let go? Accept each day what cannot be changed. Practice the discipline of focusing your effort on what is truly within your power, your words, your actions, your integrity. Set your standards high for yourself, but set your expectations for the world gently. When setbacks come, meet them with resilience instead of resistance. Learn to say, "This is not mine to carry," and put the burden down. Turn your gaze inward, cultivate your character, and invest your energy in the things that cannot be taken from you, your purpose, your growth, your peace of mind. Relinquish the need to control, and you will find a freedom that no outcome can threaten. Life will still bring its storms, but you will not be capsized by every wave. The world will turn as it will. You remain anchored by your own resolve. Let go of what you cannot command, and you will discover a new kind of strength, a quiet power that endures unmoved by fortune's rise and fall. This is the strength of those who have finally made peace with reality. Turn pain into wisdom, not bitterness. Pain comes for everyone. No one escapes its touch, whether it arrives suddenly, a sharp loss, a harsh word, a betrayal, or creeps in slowly through disappointment and regret. Some wounds are visible. Others stay hidden beneath the surface, their ache returning in the quiet moments of solitude. In pain, you may feel isolated, convinced that no one could possibly understand the depth of what you are carrying. It is tempting to close yourself off, to build walls, to hide your hurt behind anger, sarcasm, or a hardened shell. Most people respond to pain by nursing their wounds, replaying the story of what went wrong, who is to blame, and how unfair the world is. This is how bitterness takes root. At first, it feels protective, a shield against further hurt, but bitterness is a poison you drink yourself, hoping it will harm others. It steals your peace, shrinks your world, and blinds you to the lessons hidden in your suffering. The pain remains, but now it is laced with resentment, making it heavier and harder to release. Why is it so easy to turn pain into poison? Because facing hurt honestly demands courage and humility. It is far easier to blame than to look within, to lash out than to sit with sorrow, to hold a grudge than to forgive. Bitterness offers the illusion of strength, but it makes you brittle, quick to anger, slow to heal, closed to growth. The truth is, life does not promise fairness. It only promises experience. What you do with pain determines whether you grow wiser or become hardened. How do you turn pain into wisdom? First, allow yourself to feel it without denial, without distraction, without judgment. Do not rush to escape discomfort. Sit with your hurt and listen for its message. Ask what this pain is trying to teach you. Is there a pattern you need to break? A truth you have avoided? A strength you must develop? Pain is a signal pointing to what needs attention or change. Accept the lesson, but refuse the bitterness. Let every trial deepen your patience and sharpen your understanding. When you can forgive, not for the sake of others, but for your own freedom, you break the cycle that binds you to the past. Understand that forgiveness does not excuse what happened. It simply releases your spirit from being tethered to the wound. Channel your pain into purpose. Use what you have learned to help others, to make wiser choices, to become the person you needed in your darkest hour. Over time, you will notice the shift. Pain no longer defines you. It refines you. The memory of hurt remains, but it is softened by the wisdom gained. You become less afraid of suffering, less anxious about the future, more resilient in the face of life's storms. Others may marvel at your calm, your perspective, your quiet strength, never realizing how many battles you have fought and survived. Pain is inevitable, but bitterness is a choice. Let your wounds become windows openings to deeper compassion, greater clarity, and hard-earned wisdom. In this way, pain is not your enemy. It becomes the teacher that life sends to carve a deeper, more capable version of yourself. Detach from what drains your spirit. You carry more than you realize. Obligations, relationships, old dreams, fresh distractions, all pressing against your spirit, each demanding a share of your time, energy, and attention. Some weights you chose willingly, others settled quietly onto your shoulders over the years, their burden growing heavier with every compromise and every unexamined habit. You wake each day to a life cluttered by things, people, and patterns that once seemed essential but now only sap your strength. You know the feeling: exhaustion that lingers even after sleep, restlessness that can't be cured by a change of scenery, a dimming fire inside that once burned bright with possibility. You pour yourself into relationships that no longer nourish you, routines that offer no real progress, beliefs that don't belong to you anymore. You say yes out of habit, fearing the silence that might follow if you say no. Over time, your spirit becomes splintered, your focus divided, your sense of self lost in the noise of 1,000 small obligations. Why is detachment so rare? Because we confuse letting go with failure and clinging with loyalty. You convince yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, things will get better. You hope that if you endure, your sacrifices will be recognized, your patience rewarded. But loyalty is wasted on people and patterns that drain you. True loyalty is owed first to your own growth and purpose, not to a version of your life that keeps you small. What happens when you refuse to let go? Your spirit withers, and the best of you is lost to routines and relationships that no longer fit who you are becoming. You cannot move forward while carrying everything from your past. The weight of old disappointments, grudges, even old victories keeps you from making space for new joy, deeper connections, and fresh ambitions. When your arms are full of what drains you, there's no room left for what will sustain you. How do you begin to detach? Start by noticing what leaves you empty. Which habits, commitments, or people do you return to out of duty, not desire? Pay attention to the exhaustion that comes not from honest effort, but from resisting your own truth. You do not owe the world your constant availability, your unending patience, your energy for every cause. The freedom to say no is a power you must reclaim. Walk away from what leaves you lesser. Release the need to be everything for everyone. Let go firm, not cruel. End relationships that thrive only on your sacrifice. Abandon beliefs that were handed to you but never truly chosen. Step out of routines that no longer serve your purpose. Each act of detachment is not a loss but a reclaiming of energy, a step toward a lighter, fiercer life. As you empty your hands, you will find space for what genuinely matters. New possibilities appear. Your spirit brightens, your energy returns. You rediscover the clarity and direction that were lost beneath the clutter. Only by letting go can you fully become the person you are meant to be. Detach from what drains you and watch your spirit rise, free and whole at last. Live so that your life belongs to you alone. One day, perhaps sooner than you think, you will look back over the years and ask yourself a single searching question. Did I live my own life, or did I spend it carrying out the wishes and worries of others? Most people reach this moment quietly, surprised by the emptiness of dreams that never belonged to them, haunted by roads they never dared to travel. The regret is not for mistakes made, but for the chances never taken, the life postponed, the voice silenced, the truth withheld. It is easy to drift through the days, shaped by other people's expectations. You become the reliable child, the agreeable friend, the dutiful worker, the companion who never rocks the boat. In your quest to belong, you allow yourself to be edited by the hopes and fears of those around you. Over time, your edges soften, your opinions shrink. You dress yourself in borrowed values and habits, performing a script you never chose. In the end, the life you build is comfortable, but not truly your own. Why does this truth hurt? Because it is final. No one else will live with your regrets. No one else will answer for the dreams you abandoned, the boundaries you let collapse, the time you gave away without meaning. Every day spent living for others is a day you can never reclaim. The applause fades, the crowd moves on, and you are left to measure what remains. You see too late that the safety of conformity was its own prison, that a life lived for approval is not a life at all. How do you reclaim your days? Begin by realizing that you are not here to be a supporting character in anyone else's story. You are here to be the author of your own existence, to write the lines, set the stage, and decide when the curtain falls. Say no when you mean it, even if your voice trembles. Say yes only when your spirit is eager. Protect your time as if it were treasure, because it is. Build your routines, your values, your circle, and your dreams with the care of someone who knows that no one else will do it for them. You will face resistance. The world does not easily let go of those who have always fit its molds. Some will call you selfish, rebellious, or ungrateful, but their discomfort is not your responsibility. The discomfort you feel when you choose yourself is not a warning sign, it is proof you are changing. Every act of self-loyalty redraws the boundaries of your life, setting you free from the invisible cages you once accepted without question. Live as if you are the only one who can answer for your days, because you are. Refuse to be a guest in your own existence. Stand at the center of your own life. Be the one who writes the ending. When the curtain finally falls, let it be said that you belong to yourself, not to the crowd, not to approval, not to fear. Let your life be your own, entirely and without apology. That is the true mark of freedom, the final act of courage, the life that cannot be stolen or squandered, only lived.